Nvidia's 350M return. Nvidia just bought equity in a company it gutted exactly 8 months ago. On August 17th, Groq closed a $350 million funding round at a $3.5 billion valuation, roughly half of what the AI chipmaker was worth last year. But the lead headline isn't the 50% haircut. The real story is that Nvidia, the company that hollowed out Groq's engineering team and stripped its intellectual property in December, is now back at the table as an investor. If you want to understand how big tech executes mergers and acquisitions in 2026 without triggering a regulatory veto, you have to look at the licensing paperwork. The 20B loophole. To understand why this Series A is so unusual, look back at December 2025. Groq was sitting on a $6.9 billion valuation and a proprietary inference architecture that threatened Nvidia's absolute grip on the market. A traditional buyout would have hit an immediate wall at the Federal Trade Commission. So Nvidia engineered a loophole. They paid $20 billion in cash for a non-exclusive technology license. Defenders argue this was a massive windfall for early investors. But that paperwork gave Nvidia full access to Groq's intellectual property and allowed them to hire away 90% of the engineering team. Nvidia legally absorbed the hardware threat without ever filing a formal merger application. What they left behind was a hollowed-out corporate shell. Which brings us to the Neocloud Pivot. The Neocloud Pivot. Groq is no longer a chip designer. They are now an inference Neocloud operator, renting out capacity. Lacking their original engineering team, they are expanding their data centers exclusively using Nvidia hardware. Nvidia neutralized a hardware competitor, converted them into a captive customer, and then used this $350 million down round to subsidize their own hardware sales. But the real implication here goes much deeper. The real implication. This transaction establishes the new playbook for defensive consolidation in the AI sector. By combining the $20 billion licensing loophole with a subsequent data center hardware subsidy, Nvidia achieved total market capture without a single antitrust filing. For venture investors, this proves that alternative hardware startups cannot scale independently when an incumbent can simply buy the technical leadership right off the cap table. The financial windfall of a licensing deal masks the death of the core business model. For operators building enterprise infrastructure, this means multi-vendor redundancy is largely an illusion. You might sign a contract with an independent challenger, but you will eventually run on Nvidia silicon anyway. Nvidia isn't merely selling processors here. They are strategically underwriting the entire cloud infrastructure market to ensure no oxygen remains for competing architectures to breathe. Watch the Federal Trade Commission's enforcement docket over the next 6 months to see if they attempt to retroactively classify these targeted talent and IP licensing maneuvers as uncompetitive acquisitions. Subscribe for more